States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Monday, September 16th meeting of the Board of Aldermen. Our first order of business is additions and deletions to the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none. Next up is amendment and approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the September 3rd meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve. It's been seconded. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next up is public comment, where members of the public are invited to address the board on matters not on our agenda. Are there any members of the public here to address the board on matters not on our? Welcome, step right up and just, if you could state your name for the minutes.
Hello, my name is Brian Hodnett. Some of you may know me for the business that I operate locally here in Rutland. I run Sunset Entertainment. I do a lot of karaoke, trivia, and DJ entertainment directly for the city as well. I do events for the city, for example, White's Pool, the skating rink, National Night Out, stuff like that. And the reason why that's important is because the Greenbelt parking ban that you guys have on the table is going to affect me directly, especially during the wintertime, because as a new homeowner, I just purchased a house on House Street in February. I do have driveway access, but it's not adequate, not large enough to support transporting my trailer in and out of parking off-street or out of that green belt. Really, my only option is to park that trailer on the street curbside when it's legal to do so, which is any time other than during winter parking ban. And I was actually looking forward to being able to fall back on the greenbelt parking, storing that trailer in the greenbelt in front of my house through the wintertime so that I would not be forced to violate, or so that I wouldn't be violating the parking ban, and I wouldn't have to find an alternative location to store that where I wouldn't be able to maintain a level of security on that trailer with the crime that we deal with in this city. I feel more comfortable being able to store that where I can put security cameras on it that are recording all the time. I can put lighting on that, keep it a non-shaded area where it's a deterrent against people messing with that. That's my livelihood. We're a family of 5. That trailer stores my entire business. I rely on that on a daily basis to keep my family alive. And if I'm not able to park that in a location where I can feel comfortable with, security level, also have access to that on a regular basis, that's going to create, in my opinion, an unnecessary hardship. I don't completely disagree with limiting parking in the green strip. I don't disagree with the parking ban, the winter parking ban. But I feel like when those are combined with each other through the wintertime, that's going to create a problem if there's no other alternative being offered. So my suggestion is, I would suggest, at least before we pass something like this, as we go into the wintertime, if we could just come up with some kind of alternative. If there could be some type of solution where those of us that don't have the luxury of a large driveway to park everything that we have in, there's a lot of renters out there, a lot of property owners that rely on a parking space either on the street or in that green belt. And if we take that away from them and they have no alternative, what are we going to do? So, I would say do what's best for the community, but let's try to do this in such a way where it doesn't put unnecessary hardship on the residents. That's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Alderman McCann.
Thanks. I appreciate you coming out and sharing that example and raising the concern. I just want to make sure that you're aware and the board is aware. So the idea of the winter parking ban does currently sit in traffic committee for discussion about what to do with that going forward. There's obviously overlap between these two issues, the greenbelt parking ban and the winter parking ban, but then also some of the driveway and sidewalk ordinances that we've been working on. This particular issue is a mix of the police parking, DPW for snow clearing. So there's been sort of a number of people who would be involved in helping make this decision or determine what's right for the city, but we are considering it, either alternate parking during the winter or snow event only parking bans during the winter, trying to find that balance of not having a winter parking ban for the 98% of the days where we don't have snow removal, but then having some other way to get those cars off the street when there is snow to be removed. So it looks like there is a traffic committee scheduled for, I think, this Friday at 9 a.m. And if the chief would be okay with it, I think bringing this topic up and seeing if there's a way to move it forward would be good. I also, there's been some discussion, I think, in bringing the Greenbelt parking ban, or getting that approved, kind of having a period of warnings ahead of time instead of going straight to ticketing, because there's going to be a number of people. It's going to take a while for this, everybody to kind of figure out that it's happening. So I'm thinking that the city could find a way to kind of move through this winter, find a way to balance, educate people, but maybe not start ticketing right away. And maybe that could be a policy thing for this winter before we try to look at a specific ordinance, because I do think there's going to be some real research that we want to do in terms of the best winter parking management moving forward, rather than just kind of going with something too quickly. But I think you had some ideas that you wanted to share. I don't know if you're available on Friday to join that discussion, but
Friday at 9 a.m. I can be there.
great. At the police station.
At the police station.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public? I believe Devon Neary from the Rutland Regional Planning Commission wanted to address the board.
Thank you, Chair. All right, you should have a handout on your desk. Don't start reading it right away, but you can take a peek. So I am Devon Neary, Executive Director of the Rutland Regional Planning Commission. I am here to announce our launch of Phase 2 engagement for the 2026 Regional Plan. So as many of you know, we did an engagement period earlier in the year. We got a lot of great information from the public, and we're trying to do that again. So we really have two goals in this second phase of engagement. That's really to gather your reaction to the feedback we received in Phase 1. And we'll go over exactly how much feedback we got. And then 2, seek your reaction to the draft plan policies. So during Phase 1 engagement, we use that information to help influence the draft policies, and we're releasing those for you all to comment on now. So just a little reminder, where are we now, where are we going, and what is the regional plan? So a regional plan, just like your town plan, is an 8-year visionary and regulatory document that guides the region for development, conservation, land use, and all the relating sectors. In Phase 1, which ran this spring, we called that our learn and assess phase, and that was our broadest end of the bucket. We wanted to get as much information as we could from a diverse population as possible. So that summary of engagement activities we'll talk about in just a minute, which then leads us to our next phase, which is Phase 2, report back. And eventually that we will then next spring in 2025 enter our final phase, which will be alignment. So what did we do in Phase 1? Well, we did a lot. Actually, the most we've ever done for public engagement around a singular project. We held 27 town presentations. Rutland City was one of those. I believe Ethan Pepin presented to you all. We held 21 pop-up events. We understood that to get information that we really needed, we needed to meet people where they're at. So we held pop-up events throughout the region. Several of those were in Rutland City, in Winterfest and several other big events at the Pride Center and other sort of community-based organizations. We also held 5 community open houses. These were bigger, broader events. One of those was held in Rutland City at the Paramount Theater. And then lastly, our big, most broad bucket of feedback was through our public survey. So anyone in the room who took that survey, thank you, that information was invaluable. It was a lot to comb through, but it really gave us a consensus over what the direction of the region is where that direction is headed. We reached almost 1,200 responses, which we met our goal. Our goal was to get a certain percentage from every town to make sure that each of the 27 towns in the region was represented. Good news for you all, Rutland City surpassed the goal. There were 262 responses from Rutland City, which was really quality information for us. So if you were part of that, thank you. And really, lastly, the draft policies are here in this binder. I'm not going to go through them. They're also listed on our public survey. And what we're going to be doing next is an abbreviated version of our first phase, but still many of the same strategies. So those are on the following page. Today is one of the town presentations. Again, we'll be back to all 27 towns. We're going to be holding 5 pop-up events. One of those will be in Rutland City. Something new are these feedback sessions, and these will be hybrid meetings where you can come in person or online. The first one of the 2 will actually be next Wednesday, September 25th at 6 p.m. Be sending out some front porch forum notices, Facebook, email blasts. You should receive invitations with the meeting link. However, if you're ever wondering where are we, what are we doing, easiest thing to do is visit our plan website. We have a dedicated plan website that talks about where we are in the process. The summary report of our phase 1 engagement is there, and it also has a list of all the upcoming events, and in the event of a hybrid meeting, we'll have the meeting link as well. So the following feedback session will be at the end of October, on October 30th, if you can't make the meeting next Wednesday. But for anybody who can't make any of our events, we have some backups. One is the survey, which will take around 10 minutes. It's looking, again, to do 2 things. Get your feedback on the draft plan policies and to make sure that we got our summarization of your all feedback correct. And let us know if there's something missing or not. So that is all I have for today. This is really just an awareness campaign. Please, if you can do your part to help spread this word, the more information we get, the better this regional plan will be. And you all received a flyer as well. I have plenty more of these to hand out. Anyone else in the audience want one? I'll hand those out to you as well. There will be copies throughout the city and in City Hall as well. So any questions about what's happening, where we're going?
Any questions from members of the board? I see none.
Great. Easy peasy. Thank you all.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public here who wish to address the board on matters not on our agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to communications from the mayor. Mayor Dunges.
Good evening. First off, I placed a memo on your desk in regards to the VLCT delegate authorization. And this is for Rutland City's ability to vote at the VLCT meeting for VLCT passive and verb annual meeting decisions.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. Any debate? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And, excuse me, I'll move to designate the mayor as the assigned voting delegate for our city membership for the VLCT, passive and verb, and the upcoming VLCT annual business meeting to be held Tuesday, October 1st, 2024.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to designate the mayor the voting delegate, and it's been seconded. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Fantastic, thank you. I will say to those board members that are here this evening, the VLCT's annual town fair is being held on October, make sure I get the date right, on October 2nd at the Killington Grand Hotel. I encourage you to sign up and go since it's close. It's always a good time. There's a ton of vendors there and other municipalities. You can make contacts, have conversations. It's usually very well attended, and since it's close to Rutland, it would be awesome if we had a good showing. So I encourage you to go. A couple of updates. The Municipal Energy Resiliency Plan, you've heard me talk about that several times over the past 2 years. That is ARPA money that was given to the state, delegated to the Buildings and General Services team. They have now opened their grant application process for the energy efficiency pieces. You'll hear more about the integration of that into the JCI piece of what they're going to do later on when we get a report. But the city has started looking into that grant application process. While we're talking about grants and things of that nature, the local hazard mitigation planning is continuing. Our fire chief has done a fantastic job reaching out to the community. He was at Whoopie Pie Festival. We'll talk about that in a minute. Getting community feedback, so much like we just heard from Devon on the regional plan, community feedback is pretty critical to these processes, to make sure people know, or so we know as we go through this process where the hazards are. So this is collecting data like, does your yard flood, and are there issues, what type of damage have you received in the last 30 years while you've owned your home that was from a local hazard? And most of the information we got was directly related to things that we thought: ice damage, wind damage, flood damage. So we've collected that data. It's still open for feedback. We moved on to the next step in the process. Homelessness responses and the conversation that we're having around the end of the voucher components for the 80 days. Don't forget that tomorrow night we're having an open forum, just a conversation. Chris Loris will be there, Megan Novak, Chief Kilcullen. We're having a conversation about what's going on, kind of setting the groundwork for where the state's at, what we're going to have to be prepared for, and then what Rutland City has done so far. In that vein, Friday I have a hotel meeting once a month with hotel owners and then other participants in the town, different partners. And we did talk to the hotel owners, some of whom were surprised to hear about the 80-day voucher situation, and also surprised to hear that the state will be limiting, when the program kicks back into adverse weather, limiting the amount of participants in Rutland. So we've heard from Chris Winters, the commissioner of DCF, that Rutland will not be the place where everybody goes. We'll hold, somewhere around 200 households for the next season, and that's the target number for Rutland. So we notified them of this. We also notified them something really important. When a room is vacated by a voucher holder, we will be performing an inspection on that room, and they are not allowed to rent that room back out until that inspection is performed. This is the CO process that we do for homes, but these rooms have been occupied by non-transient for so long, and non-transient being non-regular hotel stays, that these inspections are critical to ensure the safety and cleanliness of these spaces. So they were given notice. It all falls in line with ordinances. It's right in line with the state's statutes around hotels and how they're supposed to be kept. So we'll be following state and city ordinances and rules to make sure that that's well taken care of. Those inspections will take place, and then if the room passes inspection, it's available for use again. Just real quick, IT and website RFPs all got submitted on Friday, so we'll be going over that over the next few weeks. You should hear back from us on that in the second meeting in October to look to discuss those final decisions and move that forward. The road reconfiguration, I want to touch on this for just a second. We're still gathering data. I'll have a report for the board, probably a memo to come out before October, and then we'll talk about it in a future meeting. But one thing that has continued to plague our office is misinformation, and I think this is really important to discuss. We've gotten reports, and I think even there was a comment in the Herald or as part of one of the articles about 11 accidents or head-on collisions. Those things aren't happening, and the challenge is when we get those reports, we take time to go dig into it because we want to see if that happened or not. All of the crash data is available on the state's website. Anybody can look up for anywhere in the state crash and collision data. I encourage you, if you're concerned about crashes, collisions, and whatnot in the reconfiguration areas or anywhere within the city, you go to the state's website and check that information there to validate the claims. Rumor's tough because we do act to make sure that we are taking care of things, and if it turns out to be false information, it's a bit of a waste of time, and we'd like to focus on the facts. So I'll just put that out there. On the other side of things, though, media coverage in Rutland has been phenomenal lately. Rutland has got a ton of attention. VPR, WVMT, SYB, WCAX, News Channel 5, ABC 22, Fox 44 have all done stories on Rutland in the last 2 weeks or had interviews with people from Rutland. The conversation's been huge. I'm going to talk about the Whoopie Pie Festival in a minute. You're going to hear about one more big thing that came out of the media side. But they've been covering things from housing events to activities going on in our city and to things that are changing. It's all very positive, and I'm really excited because I know historically we don't always get the positive press here. So it's nice to see such great coverage. And, you know, we're always in the Herald because the Herald's the Rutland paper, but to have our voices kind of spread throughout the larger community in the state is really nice. Couple of events that happened in the past few weeks. The Chinese consulate came to Rutland out of New York City. They sat down at the hub with myself, some representatives from Killington, the resort, and Jim Half from Killington's town council, and had a conversation about the integration of Chinese tourists, the city, potential integration into microelectronics and chip development, all these different things where that economic partnership could work together. And it was a good conversation. I want to thank Lyle at Cedar for hosting it. It was nice to have, and it was one of those things that was last minute, but it was really nice to have them come to Rutland and talk about what they could do here and what we could do to make our community more welcoming to them. Touched on the VLCT meeting. Stomping Out Stigma was last weekend. It was well attended. I got to speak at that, so thank you very much to Turning Point Center of Rutland for that invitation. Main Street Park groundbreaking was this week as well. Some of you got to make it. I know some of you couldn't because of the time. It's awesome to see that under construction already. I think we're all excited about what's to come there. So you'll get more updates on that too. Two more things, I promise. I'm almost done. PEG TV's annual meeting was last week as well. I am now on the board there, which is really cool. I've actually interned at PEG TV back when I was in high school, so that's kind of neat to come full circle. But one of the coolest parts of the meeting is Jack Healy came and spoke. And he spoke for like 45 minutes, and it was great. It was like listening to the radio when I was a kid again. So it was a really good time. For those of you who don't know, Jack Healy was the WSYB morning show announcer and the Rutland sportscaster, like every game for everything. It was fantastic. So it was great to hear and see Jack again. All right, Whoopie Pie Festival. I gotta say, the turnout was absolutely amazing. People from all over the Northeast were there. I mean, we saw license plates from Massachusetts, New York, Rhode Island, Connecticut. We know ticket sales happened in those states. We saw people come from all over for this. It was absolutely fantastic. Major applause to those that put it on. I think it was one of the best community events that we've had, not to forgo any of the other ones, but when you see that many people turn out for an event like that in Rutland, it's just an amazing sight to see. And back to that media, we actually were on National Public Radio today on All Things Considered. Nina Keck did a report, and I encourage you to go listen to it about the Whoopie Pie, about breaking the record, and about how that process worked, and it's great. These types of things, when they happen in our community, when they get out to that national arena, show that we are more than just a city that struggles. And we all cities and municipalities have their struggles, but to have our city highlighted in such a positive way on a national level is something that I'm really proud of, and I'm sure you all are as well. So with that, I'll end and have a good meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alderman Heck?
So Mayor, if you don't mind, if we can go back on the hotels, I was happy to hear about the fact that rooms will be checked. There's been a lot of discussion in regards to the conditions of the hotels or what people are living like there. Is Rutland Town keyed in on this as one of the largest hotels is sitting in their region and stuff? Rutland can do what Rutland can do about its stuff, but is the town going to participate in that same kind of fashion about checking in?
So we are, when Rutland Town asks the city, we are supportive where we can be. The town doesn't have the same set of ordinances that we do, so we take care of our hotels, and the state covers Rutland Towns. So the state actually just went and did the Cortina Inn recently, and I think they found 115 violations, something to that effect. But we continue to work with the team at the state and with Rutland Town, and if Rutland Town wants our continued assistance, we're happy to offer it. It's a good question. Thank you, Henry.
And if I may, just one more question in regards to the diet. I completely believe in good, pure data is what we need to make sure that the situation's going to work. But we can't discount, the state can report on what they're physically getting information on, but near misses or non-reported type things are still happening out there. So you can say, you know, the good, bad, or indifferent about that. There's still a lot of concern. There's still areas that you know that are needing to be addressed as far as that goes. So I'm glad to see that we're going to take a look at that and people can find the information, but not everything is a misconception about the road diet.
That's a great point and a solid piece of feedback. We want all the feedback from those near misses. We want to know what's happening and where. We've already submitted some potential changes to the state. We're just waiting on confirmation to make sure they don't cause conflict. But yes, continue to send your feedback in. We want to know about those near misses too. Thank you, Henry.
Alderwoman Davis?
Well, and I guess it's just a point, and it's just I'll speak for me. The amount of money per person that the state has set down to these hotels, and they appear not to put a dime into upkeep for those hotels. They have put them in their pocket, and it's just frustrating to see these buildings deteriorate in our city.
Just one quick response to that. We don't disagree, and it's a big challenge for us. To give you some semblance of hope, I'll say. The Pine Tree Lodge and Quality Inn were both the two recent hotels that we inspected. So we do it every 2 weeks. We go and inspect. We either ask them to close rooms or ask them to remedy certain situations depending on the severity. The Pine Tree, we ended up closing half of the rooms there because they were in such poor condition. The owners of the Pine Tree reinvested, fixed those rooms up to beyond better than normal quality, I would say. Put good countertops in, replace the sinks, and reopen those rooms. But they will invest if they need to in some of these situations. So that's why this process is probably, it's not, I can't speak for everybody, and it may not work for everybody. There are some that may not want to reinvest at all, in all reality.
Sure, yeah.
But there are some that do, and holding them to the standards set forth by the state is what we're going to do, and that's where we're gonna stay on that track. So great comment, thank you.
Alderman McCann?
I know this isn't a debate, but to the extent that the city would consider near misses at Board Member Heck's suggestion for the road reconfiguration, I want to make sure we don't discount the high number of near misses that occurred along that corridor in the entire time that the prior configuration occurred. People dodging and weaving and going in and out of traffic, it was causing near misses in that configuration as well. So it's making sure we're comparing apples to apples if we're going to look at that.
Perfect.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to consideration of special event permit requests. We have a special event permit application from the Rutland County Humane Society for their coin drop scheduled for Saturday, October 5th. This is on pages 1 to 2 of your packet. Alderwoman Taddeo.
Motion to suspend the rules?
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules and take the matter up. It's been seconded. Any debate? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And motion to approve the Humane Society coin drop fundraiser on October 5th from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the permit. It has been seconded. Any debate? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have an application for the Running Scared 5K on October 26th. This is on pages 3 to 4. Alderwoman McClure.
Is there a representative from the rec department here to speak on the permit?
Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm here to talk about Halloween again. I wanted to spread it out so I could just keep putting it right in your faces.
Next time, bring candy.
Yes, I'm wearing orange this time. So we are having the Running Scared 5K again. We've had this race as long as I've been around at the rec, and we've changed the route a little bit. Based on community feedback, we've changed it again. We're doing a down and back instead of a point to point. We're gonna highlight the creek path. We're gonna run through Meadow Street, visit the bridge because it won't be open yet, and then go back on the creek path to Giorgetti. We're gonna have an after party with Alliance Community Fellowship and Sunset Entertainment. And it's just a really great way to start the day filled with Halloween.
Alderwoman Taddeo.
I'm gonna make a motion to suspend the rules, but before I do, thank you for all of your work for our community. Thank you for your work for all of these activities, and then especially in preparation for Halloween. We really appreciate it.
Oh, I did forget to mention, kids 12 and under are free, 13 and up do register. It's $15, but it's a really fun time. There are prizes for costumes and first, second, and third place in each age division.
Motion to suspend the rules?
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. Any debate? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And motion to approve the special event permit for the Running Scared 5K on October 26th from 9 a.m. till 11 a.m.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the permit. It has been seconded. Any debate? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have a special event permit application for the American Legion Baseball Coin Drop on Saturday, September 21st. This was emailed to board members. Alderwoman McClure.
Is there a representative for this event here to speak this evening?
I don't see Matt.
I don't believe that there is.
Make a motion
that
to
note-
suspend the rules.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. Any debate? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Make a motion to approve the American Legion's request for coin drop Saturday, September 21st, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the permit, and it has been seconded. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to reports and letters from department heads and officials. First up, we have Human Resources Director Ellen Coyle with information about recruiting and succession planning for the city. Alderman Gillen?
I'd like to suspend the rules and take the matter up tonight.
Second.
What matter?
What matter? Yeah.
The next item on the agenda.
I don't know what it is yet.
Oh, the Public Works
No,
Authorization.
no. HR is up.
We're,
Oh, HR is, I'm sorry, I'm jumping the fence. I didn't see that. It was the next one on my list here. My apologies. I
You're
didn't
good,
mean
you're good, Bill. Yeah.
to close you down. Sorry.
Good evening, all. Thanks for allowing me to have a couple minutes of your time. I really appreciate it. As you know, most of you know who I am. I'm Ellen Coyle, and I've been with the city now in the HR position for about 7.5 months. I spent the first couple of weeks / months sort of taking an inventory and looking at us as an employer in the city of Rutland. And I've been trying to do some assessments about what has been done, what needs to be done, and trying to determine a strategy for us for succession planning and retaining some institutional knowledge as we go into the future. According to the data on the Chamber website, we are one of the top 15 employers in Rutland County. I don't know if most of you knew that. I was a little surprised to see that myself. If we include the seasonal staff that work in Parks and Recreation, it actually moves us up to one of the top 10 employers in Rutland County. We currently have 155 full-time employees who are working for us, and we're recruiting for 4 positions right now in Public Works. We've got 2 positions that are affiliated with engineering, and we've got 2 positions that are second shift in the wastewater treatment plant that we've been working to fill pretty much since the second I walked in the door, and we're not having a lot of success at that right now. In addition, we have an open position in the city attorney's office. We've made 2 offers and been turned down twice at this point. I think some of that has to do with what we're offering for wages, and that is something that I've been speaking with the mayor about as far as really doing some more salary surveys and looking at what needs to be tweaked within the city so that our non-union positions are as competitive as our union positions, and that's something that we really need to be looking at. In doing a lot of data mining, which I find fascinating and love to do, we have 17 active staff members right now who could retire this year from now through December. Not all of them I know are looking to retire, but we do have 17 people that could say, I'm done and want to leave right now. In addition, if you look at next year through the next 5 years, we have at least 20 people who can say, I'm done, I want to go on my way, enjoy something else. So that's 23% of our workforce that can be out of here in the next 5 years. That's a big number for us to be looking at. We really need to be trying to figure out how best we can fill this void. We need to be actively recruiting for a lot of positions. We need to be almost continuous in what we're doing. Right now, fire department has a fairly active recruiting plan that they work on. Police department has a fairly active plan that they work through. Public works, not as much. Rec is, they've got a core group, and then they've got some seasonal folks that they're working through as well. But I think for us, we need to really be looking at this. One of the things that I've talked to the mayor about is branding. Again, I'm going to use police department and I'm going to use the rec. They really do have something that's very identifiable as their brand. The rest of the city, we don't have that. So one of the things I'm working at doing is working from a budget of 0 to create some branding so that we can be a presence. We can go out and do a little bit more active recruiting and find the staff that we need that can receive the institutional knowledge from the people who have been with us 10, 15, 20, 30, some people as long as 40 years have been with us. There's a lot of knowledge that's going to be walking out the door in the next couple of years. So it's really important for us to start blending our new folks coming in with the folks who are saying, I'm ready to go on to my next chapter. So a lot of this, I just wanted everybody to really be aware. There are many things. HR has been here in the city for a while. We haven't always had the seat filled, so we do have some gaps that have happened there. So I'm still trying to figure out a lot of the gaps. Some of the things that we have to do, as I've mentioned, is look at the non-union wage scale that we've got in place. I understand, talking to someone who historically had my position before, that hasn't been touched since Ron Graves was here. That was the last time we really did any sort of a salary survey. That was a long time ago. We also have to be more competitive with private sector employers. We have a great group of people that work here. The 7 months that I've been here, I've been so impressed with the staff that we have. And they can make magic out of nothing in many instances. That's something that I think we really need to recognize from our staff. Really want to work on a more formalized onboarding process for people so that new people are coming in and really feel like they're part of something and understand that we are something good. We really do start careers here, and you can stay here for quite a long time. So I'm working on that. I'm working on the handbook, working on job descriptions. All of these things haven't been touched in a while, and these are all things that are simple little tweaks in the grand scheme of things that can make a big difference in how we recruit, how we retain. Those are really big things that we should be looking at right now. I'm looking forward to bringing you updates as we continue along, and I'm looking forward to working with anybody who wants to work with me on some of these projects, because it's a bit bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Alderwoman Savage?
Yeah, I would like to invite the City of Rutland to a Vermont State University Career Fair. We have them quite a few times a year. The City of Burlington is there sometimes, so I think we
need to be there.
Yeah, I would invite you and get you
I
a
will
good
be
table
there
at the event. So,
Alderman Whitcomb?
the invitation.
I just wanted to say thank you. This is absolutely fantastic. I know one of the things I've heard since I've really engaged in Rutland city politics is the necessity of running City Hall like a business. And this is one of the first times I've actually heard us behaving like a genuine business. So thank you so much. I do have a question though, you know, sort of entangled in this, which is I love what you've put forth. Is there any risk or that sort of exists with the volatility of the nature of local government that your chief executive could get turned over every 2 years? That certain key positions, you know, it could happen and that cascades down. How do we protect against that to ensure we do the things that you're talking about?
So these are things that keep me up at night, or I'll tell Mike I've been up since 3 when I come in here at 7 to get stuff done, because I'm thinking about all of these things. Yeah, we do have the challenge because the potential for electing new people, the treasurer, the assessor, the mayor's position, and then there are appointments that funnel through that. But the core are those staff that are there. And if you have really good people in place, they can do a really good job in concert with the leadership or despite the leadership who might be there. And that's one of the things that we have to capitalize on too. Again, I'll say it, there are really good staff that are here, and they are dedicated, and they are incredibly loyal, and they want to do the best job possible. Some of them are hungry for knowing what the best job looks like, and so that's one of the things that over time I think we'll be able to develop a bit more. So that's part of the goal. It's really giving the feedback, asking for the feedback. Our staff know a lot, and sometimes rather than telling them, we should be asking them, what do you think, or what would happen if? And I think we'll get some pretty impressive answers from them.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Alderman McCann?
Thanks. I kind of want to echo what Board Member Whitcomb here said. This sort of pragmatic approach, this sort of forward-looking approach, seems like it's going to bring some resiliency to City Hall, which, to what you said, bringing some stability and thinking about the positivity that the mayor talked about earlier, trying to build on that and trying to move forward with that. I think bringing that sort of resiliency and stability to City Hall is great. And I really appreciate the work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All good?
Next up, we have Chief Kilcullen with a request for the donation of sick time to an employee.
Thank you for your time tonight. This request is for the donation of sick leave to an employee of the police department who's been with us for 2 days short of a year. And it's the time would be used in accordance with the city sick leave policy on an intermittent basis for a period to last about 3 to 4 months to help care for a family member. I've got a pretty detailed email from the employee with some pretty sensitive medical information. I'm not sure how much you want me to share, but I do have more information if needed.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules and take the matter up. It's been seconded. Any debate? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And I'll move for the approval of the donation of sick time to an employee in the police department.
Second.
I don't know if I may, I don't know that we have to have any more specific information. Okay.
It's a personnel matter.
So we have a motion to approve the donation of the sick time. It's been seconded. Any debate? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Chief.
Very much.
Next, we have Engineer Gillen with a request to issue an RFQ for water treatment engineering services. This is on page 5. Alderman Gillen?
I'd like to suspend the rules and take the matter up tonight.
Second.
You didn't even need to show up. All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. Any debate? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Did you want to speak about this?
Do you want me to?
Yes.
Yes, we would like.
Should we put the motion on the floor first? And then
Yes.
I think we should be putting the motion on the floor first. Then he can speak.
That's not how we normally do things, but that's fine.
We're supposed to do this. I move to grant the Public Works Department to authorize and issue a request for qualifications for the water treatment design engineering service.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Any debate? Seeing none?
Well, just to outline the specifics, obviously we're having some disinfectant byproduct issues. We've been studying it for several months now since the first violation. We did some in-house sampling, expanded our network, sampled from a dozen different places. We got in touch with EPA, got some free consultation. They put together a group of engineers from all over the country, and they came in and studied a lot of data, visited the plant, and they're finalizing their recommendations. We've talked about it. I'm just waiting for it to be on paper. The glaring issue is that we're going to have to make some sort of change in terms of water treatment. It can be small scale, it can be inexpensive, it can be very, very expensive. And these are just some things we have to iron out through discussions with you guys, through public hearings, things of that nature. We have a schedule that we've submitted to the state in terms of like long-term planning, when we want to make decisions by, implement strategies, things of that nature. The draft schedule, we've provided a little, or received a little comment on it so far. But nevertheless, this RFQ is for just getting qualifications from engineering firms, just to, work side by side as we have these public hearings, just to have somebody on deck for when we come to a conclusion, what should we do? We know our potential resources and can immediately go into negotiating a contract, just trying to streamline things. So no commitments on any contracts yet.
Alderwoman Davis?
So I know you don't know yet, but do we anticipate that we would change from the slow sand filtering? No.
No. Slow sand filter will always be there.
Not that large
Just-
of a change.
No.
Okay.
Just some modifications.
Okay,
to it.
okay.
All right, so the motion on the floor is to grant DPW authorization to issue a request for qualifications for water treatment design engineering services, and it has been seconded. Any further debate? Alderman
I
Gillen.
just want to make a comment. This didn't come out of blue. The department has been talking to me as the chair of Public Works and keep me informed that this was coming. Now they're ready to put it out there, and that's why we're bringing this here tonight. And I also will make a motion to send this to committee, so when the RFQ comes back, we'll be ready to go to work.
Okay, we have to vote on the motion
Yes,
on the
sir.
floor first. All right, so the motion to grant DPW authorization to issue an RFQ. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
I'd like to refer to the Public Works Committee, the Water Treatment Design Engineering.
Okay, so we have
Second.
a motion to refer to Public Works Committee. It's been seconded. Any discussion on the referral? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We have Engineer Gillen again with a request to issue an RFP for a water system study. This is on page 6. Alderman Gillen?
I'd like to suspend the rules and take the matter up tonight.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. Any debate? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Grant the Department of Public Works authorization to issue a request for proposals for engineering services for the water system study.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve. It's been seconded. Engineer Gillen?
Yeah, so this relates to the disinfectant byproducts issue a little bit. That was one of the consultant's recommendations, was to have a study done. And basically, it's generating a hydraulic model of the entire distribution system. So we can survey it in terms of fire flow capacity in certain neighborhoods and areas. Find our vulnerable points, maybe instead of just looking at size of pipe, age of pipe, knowing that we have some low-hanging fruit that we can take care of. There might be some more effective projects that we can examine through this model. It also will tell us, where can we expand if there's potential for future development. I know there's been some inquiries lately, in Rutland town on the east side. I know they have a few fire districts that are having some serious issues, some more serious than others, and they've inquired if we can provide them water. A study like this will be able to answer those questions really fast. This has been something that's been on my radar for a few years. We considered it maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but didn't act on it, considering the disinfectant byproduct issue, and in conjunction with the water main replacement project that we're going to do next year. I think it's a pretty good time to set the stage for a planning document such as this. So again, no commitment to pricing. We get the proposals, bring them to committee, have a in-depth discussion.
All right, so the motion on the floor is to authorize the Department of Public Works to issue a request for proposals for engineering services for a water system study. Alderman Gillen.
I just want to, for the folks at home, why we're doing all this now? Because we need to protect our water supply. It is very important. It's the only precious commodity we have in the city to sell. And that's why people move here, because of our water and some other reasons. But we have a great system here, and we need to preserve it, and that's why we're starting to do these studies, so we know what our issues are in the future and we can plan.
Any additional debate? Alderman McCann.
Question for Engineer Gillen. So if we move forward with this, do you know how long it would take to get the model put together and have the overall sense of the system?
I mean, obviously, the big factor would be availability of a consultant in terms of their schedule, but once they dug in, probably, you know, maybe through a single flushing season, they'd tag along with our water department, take flow tests.
Okay.
Maybe just a few months after that, after data is collected to build the model would be my expectation.
Okay, thanks.
Any additional debate or discussion on the motion to authorize Public Works to issue the RFP? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Alderman Gillum again.
I also want to take this program and put it in committee so we can deal with it as soon as it is prepared and ready for us. The water system study.
All right, so we have a motion to refer the water system study to the Public Works Committee.
Second.
It's been seconded. Any debate? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
I appreciate your time and support.
Thank you.
Next up is Treasurer Markowski with the Treasurer's Report for the City and the Rutland Redevelopment Authority for the period ending August 31st. This was emailed to board members.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to be pretty brief tonight, not going to get into a lot of the numbers. 2 months in, we'll look a little bit more closely at all of the departments with the first quarter end at the end of September. Some highlights that I wanted to share, though, collections. We're starting to work with tax sale attorneys and have identified 12 properties for potential tax sales, so we're working through those. And water shutoffs have been a big item for us in August, working with Department of Public Works. We're 2 rounds of shutoffs starting in August. The first one in August, we sent 25 letters on August 8th for shutoff, notifying of shutoff. Of those, 11 have paid in full. 10 are on payment agreements. 2 were shut off, but 1 of those is back on. So out of this round, we have 1 property that was shut off. And 2 were given extension due to medical issues. So there are some rules with the shut off. So it's pretty successful. We're getting down to some lower balances that are much more manageable. So we're seeing the payoffs and the payment agreement. So tomorrow, or on August 31st, we sent another 25 notices out. 5 have paid in full, 11 on payment agreements, and there are several scheduled actually for tomorrow morning. We really work that list to try to work with the customers. We don't want to shut water off if we can avoid it. So I'm not sure how many tomorrow, but likely we'll have people in to get their water back restored if they have a shut off. So it's quite a process in the office, but and then we'll take a break until the spring and start all over again. Collections was something, we just received the bond funds for the Grove Street project, $750,000. That was part of the last bond that was approved by the voters, so part of that bond. I have a pension meeting on the calendar for next week, Tuesday, 5:30 downstairs. Anyone that's interested, we'll have the actuary here to review the valuation and update on plan investments. The other thing that I had might be a little redundant since Ellen was here from HR, but at the last meeting, Alderman Heck had asked about open positions that are funded in the FY25 budget. So I reached out to all department heads to try to gather some information for you. In the police budget, there were 34 positions funded in that budget. Currently, there are 32 of those positions that are filled, and they are trying, we hear all the time, continuously trying to recruit new officers for those positions. There's also one position vacant, one vacancy in dispatch, and they're trying to work through that as well. The full-time position in the attorney's office has not been filled, but I know they're working diligently trying to get that filled, and did note in speaking with the attorney that we have a full-time intern position in there from Vermont Law School supporting that department. There are several positions in DPW, mostly due to turnover, and the associate engineer position, which is in the budget, has been posted. So I did not hear from Recreation Department or the Fire Department, so I think they're filling their positions as they come up. But I would note for financially, when you look at the financial reports for every department, combined, the salaries through overtime lines, those salaries through overtime expenses, that makes up 46% of our general fund budget, $12.2 million. So as of the end of August, we have expensed $1.9 million in salary overtime. So we're about 15.6% of budget, and that's slightly under, like 2 months out of 12, it's slightly under, but, so I don't see, when we were looking at that, are we gonna see some savings at the end of the year? Possibly, hopefully, but likely offset by increases in health insurance if we have some openings. So just wanted to share that. Any questions on the financials for the end of August or anything in the treasurer's office?
Alderman Gillen?
Just one question. How many water users there? 6,700?
I am not sure. I think possibly more, not sure.
My point is, we're doing pretty good if there's only 25 out of the 67.
Well, we can keep working down the list, but it's getting a little cold, so we can't keep going. But yes, we're doing really well. Linda in my office has well over 100 payment agreements in place right now that she's monitoring, so, yeah, so it's been good. Yep.
Thank you, Treasurer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to reports of standing committees. First, we have Alderman McCann with a report from the Charter and Ordinance Committee meeting of September 5th. This is on pages 7 to 15 of your packet.
Thanks. Charter and Ordinance Committee met on September 5th. Committee members present were board members Barbagallo, McCann, Taddeo, and Talbot. Others in attendance were board members Davis and McClure, Chief Kilcullen, Attorney LaChance, Legal Extern Catherine Alvarez-Rios, Ethan Pepin, and Gordon Dricillo from the Rutland Herald. Meeting was called to order at 5:32 p.m. First item of discussion was regarding bicycle use on Woodstock Avenue and Main Street. Board member McCann shared information he had found with assistance from Police Chief Kilcullen, City Engineer Gillen, and RRPC Transportation Planner Pepin. This included portions of the 2020 Rutland City Master Plan, the Vermont statutes, and the Rutland City ordinances. Chief Kilcullen shared an additional component of the Rutland City ordinances that was germane to the topic. Ultimately, there does not appear to be anything that currently prohibits bicycle use on Woodstock Ave or Main Street. If specific safety concerns come up in areas where bike lanes are not present, the police chief has some latitude to put additional controls in place at their discretion. Board member Barbagallo made a motion that this item be removed from committee. The motion passed 3-0, and I so move.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to remove this item from committee. It's been seconded. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. The second item of discussion was regarding the adoption of new parking violation fines. The committee considered the existing fines identified in Title 27, Chapter 4, subsection 5201A of the Rutland City Ordinances, suggestions for updated fines approved by the Parking Committee, additional fine changes suggested by the City Attorney, and additional fine changes suggested by the Mayor in consultation with other members of the City staff. Board member Taddeo made a motion to make the following changes to the parking fines defined in subsection 5201A. The fines for parking in designated disability zone by someone other than a disabled person or passenger, and for parking too near or at a fire hydrant would each be set at $150. The fines for parking on a sidewalk, parking in a crosswalk, and violating the winter parking ban would each be set at $75. A fine for violating the greenbelt parking ban would be added and set at $30. The fine for overnight parking at a space subject to a parking payment system, overparking at a space subject to parking payment system would be set at $30 for the first offense, $45 for the second offense, and $60 for each subsequent offense. The fine for overparking at a designated time zone would be set at $25 for the first offense, $35 for the second offense, and $50 for each subsequent offense. The fine for all other violations would be set at $25. The remainder of subsection 5201 would remain unchanged. The motion passed 3-0, and I so move.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the changes to the parking fines. They've been seconded. Any debate? Alderman Gillen.
Yes, I'm sorry, I apologize, Mr. Chair, that I was not there, but I was stuck out in the woods with no cell service, so I couldn't call you. So, I do have one question here with the greenbelt parking, and it's at $30. Why is it not tiered like the other parking ordinances? 1, 2, 3. First offense, second offense, third offense.
Good question. We hadn't considered that, but my thought, just right off the top of my head, is those other two that are tiered have time segments associated with them. And so the way those subsequent offenses work, so say you're in a metered parking spot and you get a ticket for it being expired, if the total amount of time that you could be parked at that spot is 10 hours, you don't get your second offense until that 10 hours is up. Same for a timed parking. So if it's a 2-hour parking spot, it's a fine per 2-hour period that you're there. And with the greenbelt parking, there's not an associated time, I guess, other than day after day. But yeah, and then the note below, so noted that the $30 fine, we talked about instituting a higher fine, more similar to some of the other parking fines, but started with a lower one as sort of an introductory rate as part of the education campaign, but that doesn't preclude sort of warnings along the way as well.
I just want to make a comment why that is there, especially for the gentleman who spoke earlier tonight. We have some incidents, especially the streets that are narrow, especially in the northwest neighborhood. When there is a car parked in the green space, there's no place for the public works to put the snow during the winter. We need that narrow strip to put snow there. We had some issues last year where cars were left half on the road and half in the green space. The chief did not have enough teeth in it to move those vehicles. If we had a fire down one of those streets, those fire trucks could not get through that at that last storm we had. So I think this is very important that we put this in there and we have something that the police chief can enforce. It's very especially during the winter.
Alderwoman Davis.
Well, I think folks need to understand why we're looking at the green space, and it's not just to collect revenue. It's because the curbing, there's cost of the road work that's being done, the curbing that's been established. It may not be in every neighborhood yet, but it's coming to a neighborhood near you. And they're breaking it down. Parking on that green space is breaking those curbs down. And it's aesthetics. It's driving, we're trying to clean up the city, make it look presentable, deter crime, deter those kind of things, and it comes with that. I think there are exceptions, and I think we all heard what you had to say, but I think people need to understand what was the catalyst for parking on a green space and why we took the action that we took.
Alderman McCann.
Yeah, I'm thinking about how this question or this suggestion would apply to some of the others. So thinking about parking in front of a fire hydrant, that doesn't have a tiered one. So in that case, if someone were found to be parked in front of a fire hydrant and they got a ticket, how long would it be before they could be ticketed again, or do they pay $150 and they can park there for the year? In a case like that, my thought would be if there's an emergency, right, they'll push the car out of the way or they'll tow it,
No, they'll push it out of the way.
Yeah. So that doesn't necessarily apply with the greenbelt idea. So yeah, I don't know if it would be, and perhaps the city attorney or the police chief would want to weigh in, that with this sort of parking fine, if it would be per day, right? Because yeah, I guess not, unlike the parking ban, which is an overnight thing, and you could have sort of a new instance of it every night that comes up. If you park on the green belt, you get a $30 ticket in your window, and does that cover your parking for the year, or do we need to have a tiered component of it?
Did you want to speak to that, Chief, or?
Well, to the question, at what point would they be a candidate for another ticket? Maybe we look to define an abandoned vehicle, and if it does receive a ticket, it's at the fire hydrant and receives a ticket. At some point, it becomes abandoned and we tow it. I don't think we've got that language right now, but it's something we can talk about.
Alderman Heck and then Alderwoman Davis. When they're done debating, I'll ask you to speak.
There's a set of payments here for parking payment systems. Is that defined as meter kiosk type? If it's if you don't put money in a meter, you're going to get a ticket for $30 if the meter's worn out. The second offense, when would the second offense kick in? If the meter guy comes back around again and you're still parked there, you're going to get a ticket for $45 on top of that?
Yeah, so that's where if there's a maximum time that you can be parked there, or for some of them where it's just a period of the day, I think it's if you get into the second multiple of that amount of time. So if they come around 30 minutes later and you're still there, that doesn't necessarily count. But if it's a maximum 10-hour parking, if you get to that 11th hour, that's when I think you'd be subject to a potential secondary offense.
And if I may, just a quick follow-up. Did you take a look at other municipalities around this in regards? Is a parking ticket for $30 for a meter, is that normal? Is that high? Is it low? Where would it be in regards to other municipalities?
Personally, I did not. I think City Attorney brought some feedback on that, and I'm guessing that perhaps the mayor, when he worked with some of the department heads, would have looked at some of that as well. So I don't know if either of those would like to speak to what you may have found on other municipalities.
Yeah, and I don't have all of those in front of me at the moment, but looking around at other municipalities in Vermont and discussions with them, certainly not necessarily the highest compared to like out of state, but certainly well within the range within Vermont. From what I saw, $30 was fairly average for that.
Alderwoman Davis?
So just to put out a thought, because there's some concern raised about the green belt ban, and there is a parking or traffic meeting held this Friday, should we hold that until we know what's happening with the winter parking ban? And it might help resolve some issue and just, it's not like we have to enforce this immediately. So can we pull the green belt out, pass the rest, and then revisit it after the traffic meeting occurs?
Attorney LaChance?
Yes, if I may, just to address that piece of it. So this fee schedule wouldn't go into effect until it's noticed in the paper. So that is something we could time it if we wanted to address that along with the winter parking ban and put those out at the same time.
Because it's an ordinance change, correct?
Yes.
Right, okay, yeah,
Well,
so we'd have 20 days.
To clarify, didn't the board approve the ordinance change at a prior meeting several months ago, and the fee is now what we're approving?
For the Greenbelt ordinance, which has sort of been, I guess, in limbo, if you will, because we didn't have this fee structure in place. So this will, in theory, go together at once.
Yeah, I think the current fee schedule has the other violations set at $10. So at this point, if somebody was violating the parking ban, if that was in effect, I think it would be a $10 fine. And we did talk about the idea of revisiting this fee in a year. So if $30 seemed like it was working at deterring, where we needed it to work, then we wouldn't necessarily need to change it. If we needed to up it to make it a little bit more impactful, we could do that. We could, if we need to, revisit a sort of a tiered or a ramped up component to it. But there is, I think, going to be a period of education, especially over this upcoming winter, if we don't get the winter parking ban adjusted in time. I think there's probably going to be a period of leeway either in the timing of when we actually notice it or the timing of when we start enforcing it, or that mix of moving from nothing to warnings to tickets at some point in the future.
Mr. Mayor?
I think for simplicity's sake, let me see if I can make sure I say this in a simple way. I would suggest passing these tonight, and then after you're done with your report, suspending the rules and making a motion authorizing me to suspend the fee until the time that the winter parking ban and other components are settled, because we can do that based on charter. I think that'll be the simplest, easiest.
So they'll go together.
Does the city attorney agree that that makes sense?
That does logistically make sense and could be done, should the board choose to do so.
And Mr. Hodgkin, if you wanted to speak. I apologize for asking you to wait through all.
No, I don't mind waiting. On due course, and I'll be much shorter than I was the first time. I just want to sharpen my focus on the concerns that I myself and many others that I've spoken with recently about this about this situation. Is I hear a lot of discussion about the regulation itself, the penalties associated with that, but what I'm not hearing is any alternatives being offered. I mean, if you put yourself in the position of a homeowner or even a renter that has one, maybe two, maybe it's a family of four, they have 3 or 4 vehicles, and they don't have ample parking. They have nowhere to put their vehicles at their residence other than either A, on the street, or B, in that green belt when it no longer is legal to park in that street. And you made a good point about crime. And I understand we're all interested in reducing crime, and as a citizen, the only recourse that we really have for trying to establish some type of level of security for our property in the form of a vehicle or a trailer or anything like that that might be parked outside is to create some type of deterrent. And the only deterrents that we really have available to us are security cameras, floodlights, lighting and security cameras that we can direct at our property. And the only place that we can establish that level of security is in front of our own home. So if we're not able to park our vehicles in a place where we can maintain some level of security, then we're exposing ourselves to, the rising possibility of, vehicle theft from vehicles, or many people only have whatever is in the glove box or in the armrest to lose in that situation. But some of us have a lot more to lose than that. I mean, if you like, for my case, I have a trailer full of everything that I need to run a business. I'm not the only one. I see right downtown, there's several other people that own a trailer that they park it on that green belt just because they don't have anywhere else to put it. And if that thing goes away, I mean, that's a life-changing experience for us. That's going to alter the direction of our lives financially at that point. So the only thing that I really ask is, I'm fine with, I understand why you guys want to do this. I'm not against any of that. I understand that that you want to keep it looking nice, that, the grass looks better than mud. I get all that. We just have to be careful and not rush into this in such a way that we're leaving all of these citizens that rely on the ability to park in front of their property with no other alternative. Because just please consider the impact that it's going to have on people's everyday lives before we rush right into this. That's it.
Alderman Whitcomb and then Alderman Gillen.
So actually, in an attempt to really put myself in his shoes or anyone in the same position, I really am empathetic to this. Could be a logistical nightmare for certain people that have always relied on this. And I can actually certainly appreciate the apprehension of, well, we'll pass this, but we'll figure out what we're going to do before winter. If I'm in his shoes, I'm thinking, no, don't pass this. You have a few months before this is really going to be impactful. Don't find me, figure it out, and then once I have an alternative, come back to it. So I really do understand that. The other piece in it, looking at Ted potentially, if he has an answer for this, I think we can all appreciate, the impact on plowing the roads, can appreciate potentially the public safety risk of a fire truck can't get down certain streets. But I'm wondering, do we have an ability to assign a material cost to like the erosion of the curbs, the green space, and like what do we incur as taxpayers from not, potentially adhering to this?
Sure, and I don't have a definitive answer or value or dollar sign to apply to it, but we have been investing significant amount of money in the streets, curbing, reestablishing green belts. When those green belts deteriorate, just like we talked about during a couple of committee meetings, it just undermines the roadway. Water gets under the asphalt. cracks it up prematurely. You know, an average road in our climate, dependent on what the sub-base material is, I mean, we should be retreating it maybe every 15 years. I mean, we obviously have not been doing that because it's very expensive, but you can definitely take a few years off of it for people that park, like, you know, in the green space. I mean, you can see any number of streets where that's the case. So that's always my concern, is just preserving the investment as long as we can to make it as affordable as possible. I do understand the burden that it puts on private residences to seek alternatives, whether it's locked storage units, maybe for trailers or things of that nature.
Alderman Gillen?
Yes, I agree with the engineer here that the reason why we're putting all those curbs in is to preserve the runoff for the sewers, so material from the lawns and all that are not going in the sewer and causing us more harm with the sewage treatment plant. That's why we clean them all the time. That's why we're putting curbs in, so the water is directed into the sewer and it's cleaner. It's not taking all the other debris on the lawn going in there. So there's a reason we're putting those high curbs in there, to make sure that does not happen. The other reason why we're doing that is someplace where to put the snow, like I said before. So if we allow certain people to do it and some other people to do it, the good operators are going to take care of their property. Then we have a lot of bad operators, especially in our neighborhood, who don't give a damn, who would park their car on the lawn and destroy the lawn. So somehow we got to figure a way. It's either everybody does it or nobody does it. So we really need to pay attention here. And I feel for the guy over here, I really do, but I know what happens in my neighborhood. When we let that go, we're going to have cars parked on the curbs. It really happens all the time.
Alderman McCann?
Thanks. To address two of the points brought up by the member of the public here. So in terms of that feeling of rushing into it, the Greenbelt parking item has been in one committee or another for a number of years. You know, and there's been support and detractors, and it's been going back and forth. And just in the time that I've been on the board, a number of people have reached out to complain about different examples of people parking in the Greenbelt and sort of destroying that aesthetic, causing mud pits. So, you know, you get the complaints of the thing that people don't like at the time. And so that's encouraged us to move forward on this. And now that we're looking at a change, we're going to hear the examples of where it's not going to work for people, as in this case. But I don't think that we're rushing into it from that perspective. And as we started thinking about it, it also brought up that discussion of the winter parking ban. So we have been looking at alternatives. It was difficult trying to get them to coalesce all at once, because without the Greenbelt parking ban, there's not an urgency really to address the winter parking ban. And as long as we've got one, we don't necessarily need the other. But if we can get this set, get these sorts of sentiments coming to us, it's going to create an urgency and a need to move forward with addressing the winter parking ban idea, and I think that's a positive thing. But in those meetings, whether it's the parking committee, the traffic committee, the Rutland City Planning Commission, Charter and Ordinance, we've talked about these things. So like, there have been alternatives discussed. We haven't landed on anything in particular. We did want to, look at examples of other municipalities, what's working well, what we could implement at low cost but still high effectiveness, and we just haven't gotten there yet. So that's why, as we were looking at implementing the Greenbelt parking ban, we wanted to try to create that period of education, a period of sort of leniency as we start to apply it and let people know that this is coming forward, and then again create that urgency for making sure we address the winter parking ban as well.
Any additional comments from members of the board? Sir, welcome to speak again.
So forgive me, but I still feel like the sentiment is that we're going to push this through and worry about how to resolve the issues that it's going to create for the citizens afterwards. A lot of the concerns that I hear being raised are concerns about how destructive it's going to be to that green belt, and I can understand that. I don't want my green belt to look like crap. I mean, I take some pride in my property. Are we not? It makes me wonder. Are we not putting regulation and fines in the wrong place? Should we not be considering putting the regulations and fines in place to protect, to require the homeowner or the property owner to maintain that green space, however they may choose to use it. For example, my green belt, I can access that from my driveway without mounting the curb. I'm not causing any damage to that curb. There's plenty of space between the curb and the sidewalk for me to locate a vehicle in there without a tire ever touching either one. In that situation, if I'm willing to do the work to maintain that, if I'm going to use that responsibly, and when I say responsibly, I mean in such a way where I'm not going to create a mud pit. I'm not going to use it in the summertime. I don't need to. I'll park on the street, no problem. But in the wintertime, the ground's frozen, nothing's growing there, we're not creating mud because everything's frozen solid. To use that responsibly when necessary, I think it can be done. I think certain people can do that, and I think to hold the property owners accountable to doing it in such a way, in my opinion, might be something to consider as an alternative. That's it.
Any additional discussion or debate from members of the board?
Roll call.
All right, so Alderman Hicks asked for a roll call vote on the motion to adopt the changes that were listed to the parking fines defined in subsection 5201A.
Alderman Heck,
No.
Alderman Barbagallo,
Yes.
Alderwoman Savage,
Yes.
Alderman Whitcomb,
No.
Alderman McCann,
Yes.
Alderwoman Taddeo,
Yes.
Alderman Gillen,
Yes.
Alderwoman McClure,
Yes.
Alderwoman Davis.
No.
All right, motion passes.
So to follow up on that, I would make a motion to suspend the rules and consider the mayor's suggestion of creating an opportunity for him to waive the fee through the period that we haven't addressed the winter parking, to take that matter up tonight.
To authorize the mayor to suspend the fines for parking in the greenbelt temporarily. Alderman Heck?
I believe the grand juror, the responsibility of them, they can pick and, well, I want to say pick and choose, but they have that authority already to, if there's a ticket complaint, so when someone has a complaint about a ticket, there's a form they could fill out. Basically, it would go before the grand juror, the city attorney, and they have every right to, either deny the request or approve the request as far as it is. So I think there is a tool or mechanism in place at this point in time for that to happen, just for point of clarification, that's all.
Attorney
So
LaChance?
if I may, to Alderman Heck's point, he's not incorrect that ticket appeals can come through my office and we can process those that way, but allowing the mayor to waive the fines, which he does have the authority to do in certain cases, along with permission from the board, if we allow him to waive the fines for a given period, that is something that can be done by the board, and that permission is granted specifically to the mayor, not to the city attorney. Otherwise, the fees go into effect, people start getting ticketed, and everybody would have to appeal those on an individual basis. It doesn't necessarily address all of those on equal footing.
Thank you. So were you making a motion to suspend the rules?
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules and take the matter up. It's been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
So then, I guess I'd make a motion to authorize the mayor to waive the fee for the greenbelt parking ban violation during such time that we've got the current winter parking ban in effect until we find a way to allow both of them to coexist without creating hardships.
And I believe the mayor just wanted to clarify some of that language.
So it just needs to be suspend, not waive.
Okay.
I think that's the only piece. And then we can, just as a side note, we can use that same time to warn people as well.
With those corrections.
All right.
Second.
That was seconded. Alderwoman Davis?
Well, just so I'm clear, for the mayor's power to suspend the fine with permission of the board, is that what you said?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes,
That's
in
what I-
concert with the board, not,
Okay. So the mayor would bring, if there was a fine given, this gentleman came in, gave it to the mayor, you suspended it, you would bring it here. Is that what I'm hearing?
so, no, if I could clarify, and sorry if I was unclear in saying that. So the board can grant that permission to the mayor in not you could do it for a specific case, but can also do it generally for a specific type of fine for a certain period or under certain circumstances. So in this case, what Alderman McCann was proposing in terms of granting it for a period of time until we get that into effect is something that the mayor can do with permission of board in concert with them.
Thank you.
Alderwoman McClure.
Just in the interest of simplifying the language in the best capacity possible, I would just like to confirm that this is essentially a blanket suspension for fines that would be issued in regards to this specific matter during the time frame proposed.
Correct.
Thank you. I just wanted to put it in as simple words as possible for the folks at home, so thank you.
All right, so we have a motion to authorize the mayor to suspend the fines for greenbelt parking until the winter parking ban has been sufficiently addressed. Was that close enough? Yes. It's been seconded. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Do you want to continue, Alderman McCann?
Find my spot here. The third item of discussion was regarding an update to the Board of Aldermen rules and order of business. The committee reviewed changes proposed by Board Member McCann. The majority of the changes are intended to correct grammatical mistakes and increase consistency. Other changes were suggested to improve clarity of meaning. Substantive changes included an amendment to Rule 8 that better defines the time frame in which the city clerk will provide referral language to appropriate committees and officers. An amendment to Rule 8 that allows the city clerk to provide digital or hard copies of pertinent documentation to new board members per the board member's preference. An amendment to Rule 9 that would provide a definition of standing committee. An amendment to Rule 10 that provides a definition of a select committee. An amendment to Rule 10 that clarifies that the presiding officer may also dissolve a select committee. An amendment to Rule 13 that defines a quorum for committees. Board Member Barbagallo made a motion to accept the changes of the rules and order of business as presented. The motion passed 3-0, and I so move.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion. It has been seconded. Any discussion or debate? Alderman Heck?
So if I may, just like an amendment to Rule 13 that defines a quorum for committee, what would the quorum be?
The majority of the committee members. And the reason that I brought that forward was there was sort of a separate definition of the executive session rules for a committee. You know, it sort of defined executive session for the Board of Aldermen, and then it defined it for the committees, and then there's a definition of quorum for the Board of Aldermen, but there wasn't a definition for committees. So I was just trying to create that consistency.
Quorum is 3.
Any additional discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes.
Thank you. There was additional discussion about a change to the rules and order of business that was approved by the General Committee and full board in 2017, but does not appear to have ever actually been added to the rules. This was in regard to prohibiting shadow communications. This would include both secretive communications, electronic or otherwise, during public meetings that would sway a board member's actions or decisions without making the information public, as well as communications during executive sessions that would reveal the content of that session to those not participating in the session. There was consensus that no additional action was currently needed for the current city attorney to draft an amendment to the rules and order of business and bring that back to the board for review to meet the intent of the board's earlier request. The meeting was adjourned at 6:37 p.m.
Thank you, Alderman McCann. Moving on to reports of select committees, we have Alderwoman Taddeo with a report from the Environmental Sustainability Committee meeting of September 11th. These were emailed.
The topic was review of Johnson Controls performance-based energy contract and presentation. Committee members present were myself, Alderman Barbagallo, Alderman McCann. Others present were Tyler Richardson, President Talbot, Treasurer Markowski, Chief Gilcullen, and Dean and Anthony with Johnson Controls. The meeting was called to order at 5:30 p.m. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss the energy audit and recommendations from Johnson Controls, or JCI. Dean and Anthony from JCI gave the committee a presentation on the work they have done to evaluate city buildings to see areas of improvement for energy efficiency. JCI has worked with Rutland City Public Schools for the last 10 years to help them save money by making small changes to ensure the buildings are more efficient. JCI worked with Ted Plamenos to help the schools add solar panels, replacement lights, and smart controls. They were able to reduce the school's energy spend by half. Dean and Anthony explained that JCI evaluated most of the city buildings and city streetlights. The goal is to add solar panels to the roofs of the police department, the fire department, and the recreation center. JCI would convert all of the city lights to LEDs, which would save the city 104,000 kilowatt hours of energy per year. JCI includes a 5-year warranty on lighting for services and for the product. The project will include weatherization, mechanical insulation, mechanical system upgrades, and LED retrofits for city building lights and streetlights. The annual utility savings will be over $200,000. This project will not only save Rutland City money, but will be a huge benefit for the environment. The project will reduce emissions that are equivalent to the CO2 emissions from 144 passenger vehicles, or the equivalent of CO2 emissions from the energy use of 64 homes for 1 year, which also equals the CO2 sequestered by 161 acres of pine or fir forests. JCI presented the Environmental Committee with 2 project options. The major difference is that option 1, the base project, does not include the Gear-Jetty chiller replacement and HVAC system. Option 2 includes Gear-Jetty. Option 1 will save the city $5,000 a year for a total of over $118,000 over 20 years. Option 2 will cost the city money, but will help the city solve the issues at Gear-Jetty Ice Rink. Option 1 does not include any capital outlay for the city. The committee discussed both options in detail and felt that the full board needed to be involved in the decision-making process if the city were to decide to include Gear-Jetty as part of the project. Alderman McCann made a motion to recommend the full board approve the Johnson Controls performance-based energy contract and to authorize the mayor to sign the base project energy contract. The motion passed 3-0, and I so move.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve, and it has been seconded. Any discussion or debate? Alderwoman Davis.
So on page 23, project costs $4.9 million. Is that total? And where does that money come from?
Mayor Dundas, do you wish to?
Okay.
I'll probably stay up here because you're gonna have more questions.
Yeah, I have a few questions.
Yeah, so the project, the way that the project lays out is JCI will work with the treasurer. If we do this, we'll work with the treasurer to put out to RFP what's called a lease buyout. So it's instead of going for direct debt, it's a lease, and we end up leasing all the equipment and the services together. That money goes into an escrow account and is used to build the projects. The projects get built, and then as the projects are built out, actually until the projects are complete, we don't make any payments on that lease buyout. When the projects are complete, we start making those payments. In that time, we shall see what they call construction period energy savings. That's a short time. That's a little, but the kind of like that's a little extra. But then, what should happen from the completed projects is the completed projects should generate or save more revenue than the cost of our existing utility energy. And this is called a performance-based contract. So if JCI is essentially guaranteeing us at least that $5,000 a year in that performance-based contract and savings based on the current setup of the contract. If that savings doesn't exist at year 3, they make a true-up payment and they pay up the difference to make sure that we continue to save that $5,000 a year. So that's, I know it's a kind of a complicated structural system, but the idea basically to simplify all that down, the money we save in our energy spend goes to pay for the debt with a positive cash flow of $5,000 a year at the end of the day.
So, if I may, it's not type of bonding, so you wouldn't require a voter approval for $4.9 million of spending.
This is similar to, Mary and I talked about this today, it's similar to what we did with Fathom when we did the meters and the equipment, right? So that lease buyout is a different structure. It does not require, it's not a bond, so it doesn't require voter approval in that respect.
Currently, this is proposed. I mean, the last time it was here, there was some concern that it sounded too good. I remember those discussions. And then it kind of went away, and we didn't see it till now. We also have a capital plan that we're working on, and there's discussion of moving City Hall why would I approve this until we know what we're doing with other issues?
It's a fair question. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
I want to respond about a couple of things. One, the city hall piece. So that was a question that I was concerned about. And what Dean said is we can save city hall and not make any changes on that building until we actually know whether or not we're moving. So that could come later. And basically, he's very amenable to making changes as we go. So, right, theoretically, if we decided we wanted to add the Giorgetti system, we could do that later, but we did not make that motion tonight because that was going to cost money. But the other thing that I wanted to address is, and I know that Ted wanted to be here to speak to this, Ted Pimentos from Rutland City Public Schools, but he just gave such a glowing review of the experience that they've had and the money that they've saved. And so I think the fact that our city has already partnered with them is why we know that it's not too good to be true. We know that this actually is viable because it's been a 10-year partnership at this point.
But
so those are my two pieces.
The schools have a 3-cent fund, which allows them to invest in their buildings. We don't have that fund, you know, so this is a different kind of financing that's a little more questionable because we have to get results. We have to either not get results to not pay or get results to pay, either way.
Alderman
Correct?
McCann.
Is that correct? Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes. So if, let's say we, so this also, the other thing to mention, this doesn't include what Efficiency Vermont will
Right.
give us.
Right.
So we're expected to see even better savings than the $5,000 a year after that's calculated in, but you have to kind of get the project set up before they'll do that. But to answer your question with that in consideration, we will either save $5,000 a year based on the current structure, or they will true it up so that we are saving $5,000 a year. That's the idea of the performance-based contract. So there is we will always put cash flow positive is the goal.
Do we know what our payment would be on a $4.9 million?
Yeah, it's in the spreadsheet, which I don't know if you have it up. But the payment will be, the idea, if we really simplify it down, the payment will be $5,000 less a year than what we're already spending on energy bills.
Alderman McCann.
Yeah, thanks. A couple things. So in terms of that, what we would be paying, right? So the way I understand it is we're kind of financing it through JCI. So we don't pay for it up front. They kind of absorb the cost and we pay them back over 20 years. And a benefit I see to that is that gives us a 20-year flat payment for that, where like as energy rates kind of go up and down, it seems like it would make it easier to plan a portion of our budget at least because we know what that cost would be for 20 years. Part of the reason that we made the motion to go forward with just this component for now is there is a little bit of urgency with one or two of the grants that we would be eligible for. And I think if we don't have this approved prior to the end of this month, that money might go away. So, and I don't know if that was the $500,000 one or an $800,000. There was like a substantial chunk of money that would support basically buying down what the cost would be or how much we would be positive cash flow in option A or minimize our negative cash flow in option B. And part of the conversation too was approving option A without Giorgetti, leaving the Giorgetti component in committee because we have a period of time to discuss whether we want to add that on, where JCI would be willing to say, oh, you know, even though it's a couple months later, we're still in the middle of all the project, we can add that on. And as the mayor was saying, like our costs wouldn't start, I think, until everything was installed. And so the city treasurer was sort of interested in exploring that a little bit more, right? Whether that would be a good opportunity to finance the improvement at Giorgetti, or if instead we'd have to go out to a bond if we wanted to do that. So, and we talked about that being a bigger discussion, right? I mean, that would be, meaning we would be paying $170,000 a year to include that option. And that's a big ask, and that's something we were not comfortable going forward with as just the board, trying to find a way to include the taxpayer input on that one, because that is a big difference compared to what we're paying now.
Very good.
I'm sorry. So if I'm looking at the same sheet, it says principal and interest payments. And so in 20 years, we'll have a total payment of $7,127,000.
Is that for the Giorgetti option?
I don't know.
No, it's not. It's for the regular option one.
And then it says our annual savings in 20 years is $118,471. That's a big gap. Payment versus savings. That's a huge gap.
But that's the beauty of energy efficiency and weatherization. There really is that much money to be saved, right? Like the fact that we're not going to be paying that much in wasted heat and these like crappy windows that we have, like the fact that we're going to fix all of that is going to save enough money to pay back all of that $7 million and net the city over $100,000. It's not magic, it's just science. It really is actually that much money savings if we green up our city.
Alderman Heck?
I understand the so-called passion in regards to the energy savings, but the simplicity of things. This is a $4.9 million project. JCI is going to basically pay for the stuff based upon energy savings. Whether we spend it on energy or we spend it on weatherization, solar is the number one thing, water heaters, circulations, some things for the fire department in regards to those kind of things. Taxpayers are still going to pay $7.2, $7.1 million. At the end of this life cycle, this technology it's not going to be advanced technology. So if and when will the circulator need to be replaced? When will the heat pumps need to be replaced? When will solar need to be repaired and stuff? This is you can't have a 20-year plan on equipment and not have any kind of maintenance or any kind of issues that may come from those kind of things. So things wear out at the end of the day. And any way you look at it, whether we're spending it on energy today or we're spending it on this equipment, it's still going to cost us $7.1 million.
Alderwoman Taddeo?
Well, I really wish that Alderman Heck could have been present for these meetings because you would have been able to hear that actually, in fact, JCI provides a warranty where they're able to come in and fix broken equipment and make repairs and changes. And again, this is not going to cost the taxpayers money. It will save the taxpayers $100,000 a year. We need to make sure that we're clear on what we're doing here. And this is going to save the city money, is the bottom line.
Can we hear from the treasurer?
If she's interested in speaking.
I don't know if Mary has any information or.
If you have questions,
I don't.
one meeting in JCI.
I don't know.
I wish they were here tonight. I asked actually if they would be here because I felt their debt is debt. That's a big borrowing. And I was hoping that you would have questions. It was unfortunate that not everyone was able to be at the meeting, but I think that all of your questions are valid. The proposal looks like, I go to that, if it looks too good to be true, question, really? So I don't know if you have specific questions for me. I look at that, I have concerns when something's free, so, and doesn't cost us anything, so.
Alderwoman Davis, did you have a specific question for the treasurer?
Other than the ones I've asked, as far as payment, that's kind of, I don't want to be against this, but I just want to be, it's a big gap from cost to savings. And savings is great. I just, maybe it's my Irish thick head. I just don't get the payment piece of it through where there's no impact to the taxpayers. That's what I'm kind of hung up on.
Alderman McCann?
So to 2 points, so to Board Member Heck's comment about maintenance, so that was included. So the table, the example that I'm looking at, which is in table or page 23 of JCI's presentation, there is a column that's operational savings. So they tried to take into account operational maintenance costs of the stuff that we have now, and then compare that to the operational costs of what they're proposing. And so, one of the simple examples they gave was replacing light bulbs. So if you have halogen light bulbs or whatever, and they burn out, how much would you pay for that over the course of a number of years versus the savings you would get of converting to an LED, and then that's lower. But they did that for the boilers, they did that for the air conditioners, they did that for any of the compressors, any of that stuff. They tried to account for that. And then with the savings, so that same table, just getting down to year 4, right? So to get past the years where the grants are kind of impacting it, that principal and interest, the $242,024, their estimate is that if we didn't do this, we would be paying $5,000 more than that just for the energy costs of the stuff that we have. So that's what's accounting for that $5,500 savings that year. They're assuming that we're going to pay a little less to finance all the improvements to them than we would have paid for our oil and our electricity and anything else that we're spending on now. And so there is a little bit of a guarantee through them and a little bit of risk on their end too, that they kind of build this table up for us. And I think we're kind of guaranteed that, so that if energy costs dropped and they're kind of left eating their hat because, or whatever direction it makes sense that it seems like they lose, they're taking that risk up front, but then they get this idea of like a metered payment over 20 years. So there's obviously a financial benefit for them because we're kind of paying interest on it, but they try to calculate it so that they can show that we're still saving $5,500 a year relative to what we would have been spending on energy without the improvements. I don't know if that helps.
Alderwoman McClure?
I just wanted to speak to a remark that Alderwoman Taddeo made earlier this evening, and it was that it's not magic, it's science. Many moons ago, in a different lifetime, I worked for a very large solar energy provider in central Vermont. It's not magic, it's science. The ROI is there, the passion is well placed, and the numbers, the proof is in the numbers. I very strongly encourage other members of this board who were not able to be present at this or other environmental sustainability meetings to look back into the meeting minutes and look at the spreadsheets, and the proof is there.
Treasurer?
I would just challenge one thing. The proof is there because you see the calculations on the savings. Everything tells you about the savings. Does anyone know what the investment in City Hall, what's the investment in each building? I mean, that's what is missing from it. It would be nice to make a very informed decision here on an almost $5 million borrowing, because we do have capital planning in place. We're talking about TIF borrowing. We have a lot of things coming. And we don't know, I don't know, having been to that meeting, how much of that $5 million will be spent at City Hall, how much at the rec center. That was absent. I don't know if anyone else was looking for that, or how much of the money is going to go to roof repair, how much to solar. It really didn't give a breakdown of where those funds, how those funds were going to be allocated.
Alderman Wickham.
Sort of to follow up on that, most of me wants to go forward with something like this. I want to be environmentally responsible. I want us to be energy efficient. In sort of looking through the PowerPoint, it does look as though the majority of kilowatts saved are associated with the police station and City Hall. And so I do really start to wonder, gosh, what is the breakdown of investment per location? Is there a way to get like an alternative quote back that excludes two buildings that we may not be in a year or two or five, just to make the absolute best decision possible?
Mayor?
So just, this is the PD and this is independent. So I know that's not directly to your point, but I'll give you an example. So as part of the MERP process that I talked about earlier, CX Associates did an evaluation of the police department. This data was also used with JCI, and JCI is also planning to integrate MERP into their process, and then you can see that in the budget. But with a spend of $237,000-ish at the police department, it's an overall energy savings of $19,000 a year, which works out to more than double when you're looking at the 20-year payback. So, we can certainly, we do have other assessments from other buildings that we can provide that were done through that, here you go, sorry, thank you, through that process for the rest of the facilities. One of the things because that was my question this afternoon too, what if we don't do this building? What if we choose to move out? There's a couple of implications there. What we're looking at actively, even with the Asa Bloomer building. So JCI has said, with this, there's flexibility in the structure. The Rutland Public Schools actually built flexibility into their structure as well. So if we were to say we're not going to do City Hall, they rework what they are going to do to make sure that as they say, cash flows positive. So that just to give you some insight into the conversations I had today based on department head concerns and things we're talking about.
Alderman Gillen.
I'm having some problems here trying to get around on this. What buildings are we talking about? We're talking about City Hall?
They're all listed in the
They're all
document.
City
Listed
Hall,
where?
rec,
I don't have that information.
they're in the printout.
I don't have it.
It was part of the
emailed to you.
minutes. It was
It's not
attached.
in my minutes.
It's a separate document.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
was
PDF.
attached.
It's in the same email that included the minutes,
your minutes
and
came
your
in.
name is listed as
I
the
only got
recipient.
two pieces of paper in mine.
I don't know.
I got that.
I can say what buildings it is.
Yeah, yeah.
If it's helpful.
Behind you, Bill.
I'm still on Chief's presentation.
So we're looking at all the Recreation Department buildings. We're looking at the Public Works building on Spruce Street, the garage. Water facility, water treatment, community center, wastewater, fire department, police department, Georgetti Park. Georgetti's not in the first round.
There's Georgetti and then there's the ice rink.
Right.
Okay.
Specific.
All right. City Hall.
There's a table, a few pages in their bill. It looks like a spreadsheet with yellow and green boxes that tells you what they're gonna do with each one.
I'm with all of them. I don't want to be I want to look ahead and try to save money and all that. But I'm also with the treasurer, because I know what's coming at us. You know, we got a TIF we got to worry about. We've got, mayor's got to get his project together on what we're going to do with City Hall and the police department, if that's the case. What that's going to look like to move. We haven't seen the numbers. So the first round, the City Hall will not go forward first. It would stay hold, be on hold. Will that affect the numbers? If you don't do all these?
So, I'm usually not disciplined to raise my hand in these types of conversations. I was waiting. So yes, it'll affect the numbers, and I asked that specific question today. So I asked that question as well, and so I said to Dean, our JCI rep, I said, if we put City Hall on the back burner, that's great. We decide not to do it. What would we then do to continue with those savings? He says, if you move to Asa Bloomer, there would be additional savings that we'd be able to find there as well, and we would build Asa Bloomer into the next phase. So, would you lose savings if you pulled out City Hall? Sure, but you'd also lose expenses. And the way, and I asked 6 ways to Sunday today just to be sure before we moved ahead tonight. I said, will we end up paying out of pocket unless we do the rink, right? Like, will we end up the chiller for the rink? And he says they will always cash flow positive. We will rework the system. If we have to remove something, if we remove City Hall and we don't see the same energy savings somewhere else, we'll find something else where the cost is higher than the energy savings and remove that and bring it back to positive cash flow. That's how they do it. That's how they make sure. So where maybe there's an additional spend on a unit that we should do, they'll pull something else to make sure that we're not spending beyond our cash flow.
Alderwoman Davis?
So, with all due respect to the work that the committee did, is it possible to table this to our next meeting and have Ted, see if Ted is able to join us to talk about the school's experience, but also probably more importantly, that someone from Johnson Controls is here, so we can talk about, I need to understand the payment, and I don't understand the payment. I'm not comfortable with it yet, to say, you know, it's gonna cost this, we're gonna get that, we're gonna pay this, and the taxpayer impact is zero. I'm not comfortable with that yet. Is that possible? Are we comfortable just tabling it for 2 weeks?
A lot of hands. So any hands going up now are like 5th, 6th, 7th in line. Alderwoman Taddeo.
Dean did say that he is available over the phone if we have questions. I don't know if you would like to call him. He unfortunately does not live immediately locally, so that is why he's not here tonight. But he is available if we have questions. I will not be at the next meeting, so I ideally would not like to delay it.
We could even table it to the next one if you're comfortable till everybody's
Well, I am
back.
not comfortable because that possibly puts our $500,000 MERP grant off the table, and it's very likely that we will get that money, and that's a huge chunk of money, $500,000. So I don't know if people have questions if we would like to call Dean, but that is what I would propose as a possibility.
Mayor?
Can I throw 2 quick other things? So in talking to Dean about that, because, you know, I thought that might come up tonight too. And this is really the board's decision. I'm just providing information here. The interest rates are currently going down, so right now we're calculated at 4.25%. Pre-election, the interest rates are likely to continue to go down, and we will likely to get a better rate. So that's one concern. The other one is there's also solar credits. There's a federal credit that runs out at the end of October, and getting all these things clicked into place could be slightly problematic. So I don't want to put any time pressure on. I'm just presenting the facts as they sit. So.
Alderman Heck?
I just wanted to say that, you know, based on the science-based information, and I apologize for not making the committee meeting, but my job doesn't allow me to make meetings unless you want to hold them at 7 o'clock, and I don't have any problems if you folks want to hold committee meetings after 7 p.m. I'll show up to every single one of them for you. But numbers don't lie. And this morning when I called Treasurer Markowski, because I had a couple seconds to go through this, the project at $4.9 million at 4.25% interest over 20 years, we're going to basically pay back $7.1 million to save $118,000 over those 20 years. I'm a numbers guy. We can debate this all day long. Who's going to pay for it, how it's going to be paid for? The taxpayers are paying for this, whether they're paying for energy that's not efficient or they're paying for this project. And it will cost $7.1 million. Any way you look at it, to save $118,000. That's what I'm reading. It's right here, states it right on this chart. I can't support something like that. I don't think my constituents would like me to support something like that. It's not that I don't like going green, not that I don't like solar, not doing anything. I just don't see how we spend $7.1 million to save $118,000 over 20 years. It's plain and simple. Thank you.
Alderman McCann?
The idea is that we would be spending $7.1 million instead of spending $7.2 million, right? So that savings is small relative to that total amount. But like you said, we're paying for it either way. So to not approve this, right, I mean, putting some faith here in that Johnson Controls estimates and projections are valid, and these numbers will hold up to some extent. And I think that they're probably being conservative in a way, right? Like they don't want to overpromise it and then they're left holding the bag and paying more out of pocket than we're paying them back. But to say that we don't want to do this, small as it is, we're saying that we don't want to save the money and we don't want to decarbonize to some extent while also saving money. And to me, that's a huge benefit of it, right? We're just about breaking it. We're going to pay about the same amount, a little bit of a savings per year, but it is a savings at $5,500, and I think we've squabbled over amounts smaller than that in trying to consider what's best for taxpayers. And in that whole time, we're putting less carbon into the atmosphere by saving $5,500 a year. And to me, that seems like the right thing to do for the environment. It seems like the right thing to do for these buildings that we're managing, and it seems like the right thing to do for city taxpayers. So, I mean, I'm in support of this. The fact that some inaction now is a $500,000 hiccup for us, we lose out on the availability of that money, that's another hit to taxpayers, right? So, like, we're gonna pay this over 20 years in the cost, but if we do this, we get a $500,000 bonus towards it that we don't have to pay. So, yeah, to me, it seems like a great idea for the city, going with option A and considering the Giorgetti option later.
Engineer Gillen, did you want to?
I know the question I have, I know has been talked about just briefly here and there, and I didn't go to the committee meeting. I saw the presentation and I skimmed through it quickly, but something that would jump out at me on those tables was they weren't ranked. There was no implementation cost for each one of them, and any time that our department has done a large capital plan, whether it's the CSO long-term control plan or the phosphorus reduction plan, you know, we've had the implementation costs for each project, your benefits, in this this case, cost savings. In the other projects, they were, gallons of combined sewage overflowed, or dollars per phosphorus reduction, and I didn't see that, and that just, I gotta be honest, that was a red flag for me. I don't know how the projects got selected, or was this just an inventory citywide, throwing everything at it? Are some of the projects more cost-effective than others? Would you guys be able to cherry pick the ones that are most beneficial? Maybe there's a few that might cost a lot, you're not getting a lot of energy savings, they're not as efficient. That's just what I saw, and I'm assuming the committee took that into account, and this is just the final product.
Alderman McCann?
Yeah, I think the way they explained it to us is they were looking for those things that had the biggest bang for their buck up front, and those things that didn't. So that when you blended them, we still kind of overall made out pretty good, but not just by picking the lowest hanging fruit and then leaving the hardest stuff for later. The way they explained it, and again, putting some faith into their presentation, is that they were trying to make a blend so that we could take care of some of the harder stuff up front as well. And I think that they've got it all broken out. They talked about their line by line sort of plan, and that's just not what they brought to the committee meeting, because we would have been looking at PowerPoint slides for 7 hours. It sounded like they said, they walked into every room and counted lights and windows and all the fixtures, and they've got all of that broken out and modeled.
Right.
And I think they just didn't
Yeah, I
put
just
all
know
of that detail.
every plan that we've done, I flipped through all the pages. The last one is the cost benefit analysis. Dollars per pollution reduced.
Okay.
Dollars per phosphorus reduced. That was missing. I thought that would have been in that table. So just wanted to point that out.
Mayor Dundas, you had a hand? Okay, Alderwoman Davis?
So, I understand the concern. Oh, I guess I'm going to back up. This came to us, what, a year ago, 6 months ago, 8 months ago? I don't know how long ago. And we kind of sent it wherever we needed to send it because we had concerns. And I'm sorry that it's backing up against a grant or something that's available. But I think there are concerns that need to be addressed, and I think a tabling of, even for 2 weeks, I'm sorry that some of the folks won't be here, but I think it's our responsibility to have the answers, and I don't think we have all the answers. I would like to hear from Ted and their experience, but I'd like to hear how this payment's going to occur and what the impact, what we anticipate the impact will be. Savings aside, green aside, I just want to know what the impact is on the taxpayers for doing X amount of work. That's $4.9 million, and over 20 years, 7.1. That's all I'm asking for. And I don't know if you can get that on a phone call. I have no idea, but I can't vote yes for this not knowing it. I've never done that in my life sitting in this chair, and I'm not going to start now.
So we have a motion on the floor. The motion is to approve the Johnson Controls performance-based energy contract and to authorize the mayor to sign the base project energy contract. Alderman Whitcomb?
Sorry, just one more question. Do we have like an established drop dead date for that $500,000 grant? Do we know what that is?
So the I think the grant application is due October 14th, but it could be a little later. The problem is the state just opened it up and they said, we know, and listen, I'm just gonna be real honest here. MERP has been a conundrum since day one. They have changed the rules every time they open it. They've changed it 3 times now. When they opened the grant for these projects, they said only cities with the highest, or municipalities with the highest energy burdens would receive grant funding. In the past and that's when they opened it. That was a week and a half ago. That's already changed. Now they're saying they're gonna do everybody, and now they've changed again, and they're saying they're only gonna do some of it. It has been the most inconsistent thing, but the highest energy burden cities will get funded.
So can't we apply anyways?
We can apply. We could absolutely apply anyways. It changes how we're going to apply. So right now, JCI is set to apply. We could apply. If we do apply separately, it changes the dynamic, and the project may not pan out the way it pans out. That's the concern with doing them separately. because of how you have to spend the money. So we are working with the Regional Planning Commission already to work on the application, getting data from JCI. If we are going to switch gears, we can still apply for those funds, but it will not end up panning out necessarily the same way that is in this plan. And I know it's a complicated situation. I just want to be totally transparent on it. So.
Can we do roll call for this vote?
Sure. So the motion on the floor, once again, is to approve the Johnson Controls performance-based energy contract and to authorize the mayor to sign the base project energy contract. And Alderman McCann's asked for a roll call vote.
Alderman Heck,
No.
Alderman Barbagallo,
Yes.
Alderwoman Savage,
Yes.
Alderman Whitcomb,
Yes.
Alderman McCann,
Yes.
Alderwoman Taddeo,
Yes.
Alderman Gillen,
No.
Alderwoman McClure,
Yes.
Alderwoman Davis.
No.
Motion passes.
Option 2 in the Giorgetti chiller system will remain in committee, meeting adjourned at 7 p.m.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, could we still request that we get that information? Thank you.
Yes?
And I know I asked this at committee, but we did compare this to Fathom, so I think you need to be really clear on, you just supported doing the contract, but please be clear that you are also approving a borrowing of $4.9 million for the city, and I think that should be reflected in the minutes that you all are approving a $4.9 million. You're not just approving, go ahead and sign a contract. You are approving debt, and that is outlined in the charter, and I think that needs to be very specific tonight. You'll get the loan documents when we go through the process, but please be clear, there are many people who will read the paper tomorrow and say, wow, look what they just did. We had that with Fathom. So let's be clear with the public what was just voted on. I would recommend that.
Should it be part of the motion?
You can amend the motion to request it.
Reports of representatives, we have none. Petitions, letters, miscellaneous communications, we have none. Board of Control Commissioners, we have nothing on the agenda. Board of Cannabis Commissioners, we have one item on the agenda, an application for indoor cultivation Tier 2 for Nature's Gifts Alternatives. You'll find a copy of the application on pages 16 to 17 of your packet. I'd entertain a motion to go into the Board of Cannabis Commissioners.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. What is the Board of Cannabis Commissioners' pleasure?
He's here.
You wish to speak? The applicant's here.
How you doing tonight? My name is Eric Schneider. I just want to start by saying I'm sorry that I missed the last meeting that I was supposed to be here for. I was super embarrassed, and I just wanted to say that first because I've been thinking about that for a month. Secondly, I just wanted to state, I know someone had expressed a couple questions, or a few of you had expressed questions, so I'm just here to answer any of your questions and alleviate any stress or any things that you may have concerns with.
Alderman McCann.
Can you just kind of help explain what the plan is, what you're proposing, what it would look like from the outside, what would be going on the inside, that sort of stuff?
Excellent, yeah, sure. So as you know, I'm sure a lot of you from the area, 209 Columbian Avenue is the building that I'm going to be growing cannabis in. And I'm going to keep the outside exactly as it is, just because with certain things, I'm not one, I don't want to draw a ton of attention to the place. As far as I'm concerned, how it looks now, it'll stay. And I'm not putting up any signs or anything advertising. Another question is, I know someone had said, who am I going to be selling the cannabis to? And that would just be strictly to dispensaries, and I would be following all the local laws and regulations of the Cannabis Control Board. As I just say, the whole reason I got into this is because I know that cannabis helped me so much with my ADHD and my Crohn's disease, and I kind of want to give back to the community, so.
Alderman McCann.
So in terms of it being, a type of industrial use in a building that maybe you didn't have that level of use before. So in terms of either supply deliveries, like whether it's, I don't know what goes into it, but stuff that you would be having delivered to run your operation, and then stuff that would be packaged up and taken out? Like what level of traffic, deliveries in, deliveries out, sort of thing would you be looking at?
So as far as it is now, I was planning on doing maybe like once every 2 weeks, I would take one ride to the dispensaries that order the cannabis from me, and that would be pretty much it. It would be like a large thing. So I would say if I get, for example, 2 pounds of product over the course of a few months, I would maybe deliver a half of that to one dispensary, a half of that to another, and then maybe one of the other ones to the other dispensary, and then I'd go back, and that would be basically what I would grow for that time period.
And that's in a passenger vehicle, so you don't have like tractor trailers come in or box trucks or anything like that?
No, it's a one-man operation as it is right now. And if I need more help as time goes on, then I would go through the proper channels to do that as well. But as far as now, it's just me. And like I said, I'll be following all the rules and regulations on everything from growing the cannabis to keeping track of the cannabis to delivering the cannabis to said location.
Alderwoman Savage?
You're not doing any processing of it, you're just growing and delivering?
Yes, I'm just growing and delivering, and if I do processing, I think you guys would be seeing me because I'd have to apply for a manufacturer's license.
Alderman McCann?
If I may, a question that has come up in other applications is related to odor in the area. Do you have a plan for addressing that?
Absolutely. So there's carbon scrubbers that you could install, and how I plan on doing it ahead of time, just because I don't really need to advertise to the neighborhood, as even though it's industrial area, I'm not trying to put it out there, So I'm going to be using carbon scrubbers, and the environment is actually its own isolated environment inside as well. So the carbon scrubbers really are keeping the air inside from stinking, but the air shouldn't be getting out at all unless it's scrubbed. And if I do decide to cycle the air in and out, it'll be from one scrubbed area to another.
Alderwoman Davis?
So I think some of the concern is location, because it's residential. There's a school, you're on Columbian Avenue.
Yes, ma'am.
There's several houses that are being,
18 unit.
yeah, 18 unit, going in, family kind of housing that will be going in across the street from you. There's certainly residential neighborhood that surrounds you. There's Northwest School that's down the street. So I think that's the concern, is location.
Okay. And what was your question on that?
It isn't. It's just,
Oh, okay.
I think it's just one of the concerns.
Okay.
Is just that where it's located, I don't support them in a residential neighborhood.
May I respond to your?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, great. Thank you. So I checked, and I must be wrong. I thought that it said industrial in the area that I checked. I'm pretty sure on the map it does. I could be wrong though. And I'm right across from GE, so I figured when I was getting that location, I did a little bit due diligence.
Right.
I figured this is probably an ideal location because I know it's a big, thick brick building. I know that I can contain the whole environment, like I just explained, so the odor won't be getting out, people won't be seeing it. And as far as that's concerned, I just figured that spot was ideal. But, I'm sure we all view it differently.
I understand. Thank you.
No problem.
Alderwoman Taddeo?
I would make a motion to approve the Nature's Gift Alternatives application for license.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the indoor cultivator Tier 2 license for Nature's Gift Alternatives. It's been seconded. Alderman McCann?
Thank you. A question for the attorney. Can you help me understand how this motion and this vote would relate to a prior vote that I think we had on this same application?
I actually can to a degree. We've actually, the legal extern here in the city has been doing a lot of research on this particular issue to address questions of the board. I believe you were all provided with a memo that I know came in late in the day. It was on your desk here, and there's some reference to that. But I will actually kick this question over to our legal extern, Kat Rios, which I don't know if she went, yeah. Sorry. Just so we can all hear you. Thank you.
Pretty loud already, but.
So I think you guys had two questions. The first one was if the motion failed, whether that was action. And so it's not action. And then the second question is what the consequences of inaction was, and it delays the application. So I think what it came to the conclusion was that in previous applications, what either the this Vermont Cannabis Control Board did or applicants did was they just took the meeting minutes where they were approved and they just sent it for us, because they require at least the meeting minutes saying that we've approved them if we have a local cannabis control board.
That answer that?
I think so, yeah, thank you.
All right, so we have a motion to approve on the floor. It's been seconded. Any additional debate? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Can I get a show of hands? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion fails. Alderwoman Taddeo.
I'm not sure procedurally if during the Board of Cannabis Control Commissioners would be the appropriate time to make a motion to dissolve the Board of Cannabis Control Commissioners, or if I should wait until new business.
Again, I would look to Attorney LaChance.
So, being in the Board of Cannabis Control Commissioners, it would be appropriate to raise it. However, since it was not warned at this meeting, it should be specifically warned if we are choosing to dissolve it at a future meeting, which is an option that the board could take since there's effectively no other authority.
So is now an appropriate time to have a conversation, though? I mean, about this topic, or you're suggesting that we just put this on the agenda for a future meeting and just have the conversation at that time?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Good. So I'd entertain a motion to go out of the Board of Cannabis Commissioners.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Is that good or bad for me?
It was bad for you. Yes. We require 6 votes to pass something. There were 5 in favor of approving the license.
May I have a final
4
thing to
opposed.
say, potentially?
I mean, sure, but the board voted, and I can't do anything procedurally since their vote is final. But
Okay, the last thing I guess I'll say in hopes that maybe, I'm not sure, I've never done this before. I went through the Cannabis Control Board, and they make me get things from certificate of occupancy to change of use permits, which I had hung outside of my building for 2 weeks if anyone was to, object to it. And I went through all these processes. I had the Cannabis Control Board come in and do security checks. I got my building set up. I had my cameras set up, and I invested quite a bit of money into this because I was never even told when I was applying for the Cannabis Control Board that I had to come to a city meeting. And this is like my whole life. So I don't know if there's any way that I can do anything, but I've never broken rules or laws or anything. I'm just here to start a business and do it in a town that I love and I live in. So if there's any way that you could reconsider, I mean, I've invested my whole life into this. I'd be willing to, anyone that has any concerns or questions, I'd be happy to show you the premises or give you a tour or anything I have to do.
Alderman Whitcomb.
I suppose I'm just going to ask the question again, though. Like, is our vote of any actual consequence, which is why we're talking about dissolving this?
So the only consequence with this is, so the Board of Cannabis Commissioners from the state of Vermont requires an approval or a denial to come out of the local Cannabis Control Board. A denial can only be based on criteria if, say, he were in violation of any other zoning bylaw or ordinance. So it would have to be on that basis. We have to treat it the same way we would any other business in making that determination. So by the motion failing, it is technically no decision because it has neither been approved nor denied, and so it remains in stasis.
Alderman Heck.
I think at the same time, Matt, it's probably going to go before the Development Review Board or the zoning administrator. If this gentleman hasn't created or has not followed any procedures or any of those kind of things, technically, I don't think they're going to deny him his license. Yeah. So if I were you, my friend, I would just sit tight for just a little bit. I don't think that you're going to, it's not a defined or definite type of thing because there's other avenues out there. I hate to say, but the state of Vermont, in regards to when they set up this whole cannabis control situation here, it's like with liquor licenses. We have the right to approve or deny, but at the same time, the state is going to do what the state wants to do because that's what the state does. So there are avenues out there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see someone within the DRB, or if this got sent to the DRB, or if the state inquired what regulations have or have not been met. There has to be a reason for the denial. As you state, if you put a lot of money into this, they can't just shut you down as far as that goes. So I think you'll see that you'll be contacted, I would assume, by the state in regards at least giving you information about what you have for an alternative.
Okay, and our last question, based on that, is my change of use permit, was that kind of just not valid?
DRB would be able to answer that question for you. The Development Review Board could look into that and see what you're capable of based upon the location and those kind of things. So those would be the folks that set that criteria. At least that's my opinion.
Thank you. Brings us to unfinished business. Any unfinished business that board members wish to bring up? Alderman McCann.
I don't know if this is the right spot, but I just wanted to make an observation based on the Rutland Regional Planning Commission's presentation earlier. They put an enormous amount of effort into outreach and education and trying to get feedback on that initial phase of their regional plan. And they got 1,200 responses, and I think that speaks a little bit to some of the discussion we've had in the past about what our options are for reaching out to the public with information about our own meetings, right? And the number of committee meetings that we have and the information about what's on them and how we share that. They put a gargantuan effort into it, and their response out of the entire region was 1,200 people clicked that survey or contacted them at events. I think it's just kind of representative of the amount of response that we get as local governments when we put information out. So I think we could do better, whether it's email blasts or more social media posts about what's going on in our meetings and the outcomes. But I think there's also a demonstration there that almost no matter what you do, unless you're literally walking and knocking on people's door until they answer and explaining it to them, there's only so much real response you get from people that are really interested in the municipal goings on. So.
Any other unfinished business?
I'm sorry, I know it's not new business because you just approved it, but it is unfinished. It's never do we approve a contract for the mayor to sign that isn't subject to attorney review. There are risks to the city in any contract, and to sign a contract that has a $5 million borrowing without demanding a review of the risk to the city, I mean, I think that should be considered, maybe just overlooked tonight, but I would suggest that, I don't know if you can make another motion or whatever, but please make sure that you demand a review by an attorney of that contract.
Attorney LaChance?
If I may, just very briefly, I did have a chance, I've already reviewed the contract prior to this evening for any technical legal issues on that end, but the advice is well taken, and I think well given that contracts of this nature, and even those of certainly lesser amounts as well, certainly should be subject to attorney review to make sure we aren't putting the city in a position where we're open to more liability than we're willing to take on.
And that fact was shared at the Environmental Sustainability Committee, that the city
I did
attorney
miss
had
that meeting,
reviewed the
unfortunately,
contract.
so thank you.
I would have loved to have seen the contract at the meeting. Not a lot was shared, I guess, but I know that it was reviewed, but I will recall, I don't know how many were here when we had the Fathom contract, which we did, and they went out of business 9 months after we signed and we got everything implemented. So it's really important to me that what are the risks to the city, that they have been reviewed. So that is why I raised it. I think this was a big decision tonight, and I just want to make sure we did everything possible at least.
Alderman McCann?
Would it be appropriate to request a reconsideration of that vote with an amendment that we include continued review by the attorney? Because we did talk about the fact that there's some flexibility in there with JCI, that we might be able to make some changes in the meantime, and so potentially adding that requirement for additional attorney review would add some.
Outstanding motion.
You can do it.
I defer to Attorney LaChance on this.
I don't know necessarily that it would be and I leave it up to the chair whether you would entertain another motion at this point on that for an addition. But I will say that any changes would have to be subject to attorney review anyway for the contract and would have to come back before this board to be voted on regardless.
Okay. So miscellaneous motions, resolutions, and new business. Alderwoman Davis?
So the fire chief reached out.
Oh, I had something first that I had put on the agenda.
Oh, my apologies.
So mayoral succession plan for October 3rd to October 13th. The City of Rutland delegation that includes both myself and Mayor Dunges will be in Hanamaki, Japan. So section 9-9.3 of the charter states that the board should designate a member to serve as acting mayor if the board president is unable to do so. So I will be unable to serve as acting mayor during those dates, so the board needs to designate a member to do so.
To be,
I
if I-
moved it.
just a question, a clarification, if I can.
Sure.
To be the president of the Board of Aldermen is what you're asking?
Nope, to be acting mayor. That's what the charter states, because I serve as acting mayor because of my role as board president when the mayor cannot serve. If for some reason the board president cannot serve as acting mayor, the board shall designate one of their members to serve as acting mayor. At the October 7th meeting, the board will also need to elect someone to serve
From the
in this
floor,
chair
right.
to conduct the meeting.
Why wouldn't we just appoint a president who would then be the acting mayor per the requirement of the charter? I'm just,
Because the board only appoints an acting president during the meeting, once the meeting is opened until it's closed. No one serves
So we
as board president outside of that time. Alderwoman Savage.
If we can nominate, I would nominate Matt Wickham.
Okay. We have a motion to nominate Matt Whitcomb to serve as acting mayor.
Second?
It's been seconded. Any discussion or debate? Alderman Gillen?
I think the ranking member of the board should be doing that job.
Okay.
I just have a question of Alderman Whitcomb, will you be in town?
Now,
Will I be out of town? As in, like, will I have to go to
as
work?
acting mayor, you gotta be in town.
You have to, well, you have to be, you work a fair distance away. I don't know what your schedule is like. That's the concern that I would have.
Yeah, I think in an effort to not make this contentious, I will not accept the nomination.
Very good. So, Alderman Gillen.
I move that Alderman Davis is mayor, temporary mayor, while you folks are in Japan.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to nominate Alderwoman Davis to serve as acting mayor from October 3rd to October 13th. It's been seconded. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
So, Mr. President, point of order, that means we'll have to appoint a president
Yes.
to
The clerk
reside.
will open the October 7th meeting, and then the board will have to elect a president to serve in that capacity. That means there will leave only 6 members on the floor if every member is present. So,
Right.
Alderwoman
Right,
Davis.
so if I may,
Yeah.
you and I had a discussion, because I believe Alderman Taddeo and McClure are also gone, that please check your calendars, because we will need each and every one of you present
For a quorum.
for that meeting for a quorum, or the board will not be able to function for that. So just so you're,
send the
Have a
cops
heads
out
up
to pick
ahead
them
of
up.
time.
They'll go get them.
Mayor Dunges.
Yeah, I just want to, I'll be sending out a memo tomorrow to department heads to let them know that you will not be able to suspend the rules, because you won't have enough, so that they won't be able to bring anything
Anything
that
new.
requires
That's
a
correct.
rule suspension.
yeah, thank you.
Alderwoman Davis, you have
Oh,
a new
yes,
item.
I do. So, Chief Lovett reached out to me. Currently in public safety, we had referred the equipment replacement fund to look at police, rec, and DPW for funding what we raise now off the tax rate. He asked that we re-refer the fire equipment replacement fund. We did raise that a couple years ago. It currently is raising about $175,000 a year, which they're doing well at. But apparently there's some discussion that the trucks currently are going 20 to 25 years. There may be some state changes or federal changes that will allow only 14, which is going to really impact our turnaround. Hasn't happened, but what we want to anticipate is if that does happen, do we have enough that's being raised on the tax rate to prevent us having to go to bond for a fire truck? So I'd like to move that motion to public safety, please.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to refer to public safety, the fire equipment replacement fund. It's been seconded. Any discussion on the referral? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Any additional miscellaneous motions, resolutions, or new business?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.